Hey everybody, welcome to Behind the Ads, and in today's episode we have a very special guest, Isaac Ware, the Director of Demand Generation at UserGems. Welcome, Isaac.
Okay, great to be on the show.
I'm so pumped to have you. Let's just start off at a 10,000-foot view. What does UserGems do and who do you serve?
Definitely. Yeah, so we help generate pipeline, and I think everybody's hearing that and everybody's trying to position themselves as a pipeline generation tool, but we've really niched in on tracking customer job changes, those champions that are leaving customer accounts, moving to other accounts that you could potentially sell into. But then the second piece is surfacing the buying committee at all your target accounts. So let's say that champion moves from Cisco over to Pendo. We're going to surface that job change, let you know that they're there, but then also surface that entire buying committee around that person so they can help refer you into that company. You have multiple worms or paths of warm entry into that account.
Got you. I'm so curious how the tech works, just hearing you like talk about that, but a question for another day.
Yeah.
So essentially, you guys are tracking job changes, and then you're letting people know. You're kind of illuminating the buying committee side of things. So those are your two biggest use cases that you're really trying to focus on.
Yeah, and the thing I like focusing on too is it's not even just like the letting you know. At this point, we're huge on the operationalizing that data. You give a team massive lists of leads, they're not going to do a whole lot with it, but the more you can automate, the more you can systematize, the more you could turn into playbooks. Having running it all the time, it's amazing the pipeline difference between automated versus trying to get a team on board with actioning massive lists of data.
When I was at Metadata, a lot of people don't know this, but I was a CSM for a little bit. Out of urgency, we needed help. Like we needed help to kind of get, it was like early days, and it was like when I had first started. I was a CSM. I was a head of ad operations. I was like doing everything, and I was managing clients. I was running their campaigns, everything. And I remember my time there, that when a champion left, how critical that was to the impact of potentially renewing that deal. It
It's amazing too on the flip side as well of champions joining your accounts too for opportunities to expand. So yeah, tracking that for churn risk, but also looking for more opportunities to expand that account as well.
That's awesome. So, what does your paid strategy look like at a high level at UserGems?
Yeah, definitely. So I come from an agency background, so I came in heavy on Facebook, Google ads, YouTube ads, everything. And initially I started with kind of that focus and lighter on LinkedIn just because I had been a little bit more jaded around the performance of LinkedIn, how expensive it could be, so some of the targeting stuff, things like that.
Were you
Now
more on the
though,
B2C side, and then you transition over to B2B, and then you got
I was heavy on B2C, but still had a lot of B2B and some SaaS experience. But again, had some reservations around LinkedIn before this,
Mhm.
but again, ran some of that. Now we're switched over to like about 95% LinkedIn spend. Our product plays really well with that, with the data that's coming out of our product directly into LinkedIn. So it's an efficient channel for us and a huge pipeline generator.
folks. If you have not seen UserGems ads, highly recommend taking a look. You guys, one of the things I wanted to compliment you on is that you do really well that a lot of SaaS companies I feel don't do as good as you guys do, is you're great at using people in your creative and even in your landing pages and just embedding social proof. A lot of your creative is a video in feed of a customer talking about their experience. I went to one of your landing pages, and the first thing I see above the fold is a social, like a testimonial on the right hand side. I think a lot of SaaS companies really miss that. They don't let others speak on their behalf of their product, and they just lead with like product mock-ups and like animations of their product, but they don't like, you don't understand what's the end benefit from it. So I'm curious to get your take. How have you gotten to this point where you're using social proof so much in your creative and just like your marketing? Is there a reason behind that?
Yeah, I think the main thing is I think it's that bias too coming from either e-com or anything like that. E-com, some of the top performing ads right now are users talking about a product, and there's a reason for that. Is like people want to be able to relate to a person, so providing that broad reach of individual contributors, VPs, CMOs, head of revenue, CFOs, things like that, adding this wide range of people, people will start consuming a lot of this stuff. and a lot of the time they won't know they're relating to a person or a specific pain point that that person's talking about. So
Hmm.
really, really impactful. And then on the flip side too, pushing ads with individual contributors. Some of our top ads come from AEs talking about using the product, and AEs can't buy our product. It's always director level plus. But being able to hear those relatable pain points helps, yes, the director level when they hear it, but also spark some internal conversations where AEs are asking for the product. And I
Mm.
think what sparked that for me was, I mean, listening to one of our AEs talk about why she wanted to work at UserGems was she was like, I saw UserGems and I would have personally shelled out the full contract price just to have that for myself because it would have been worth it. So hearing that makes it really flip the script on exactly how you're approaching testimonial ads.
That's incredible. You guys have a lot of different ads that you're running. For example, I see carousels, I see single image, but not so much the ad type is what's interesting to me is the play behind the ad and who you're addressing and how you're targeting. Do you mind just giving a run through what does your approach to campaigns look like? Because right now you're investing 95% on LinkedIn.
Definitely. Yeah. So we have more of like a traditional buyer journey campaign group where we're walking people through some of the pains, some of the awareness around the product, testimonials, social proofing, things like that. That's all still fed by UserGems data. So I actually use because UserGems is surfacing the buying committee at all of our target accounts, I'm pushing those right into LinkedIn for my top of funnel targeting, kind of pulling through people through that way. But a lot of the supplemental, more deal acceleration and more small audience campaigns are what really stand out for a lot of people. So one of the main ones is job change ads. So as soon as somebody changes a job, we have email automation going out to them, some manual touch points there too, but we're also pairing that with ads to stay in front of them, just remind them of previous success. So we're saying, hey, you used us in the past, we miss you, but
Mm.
wasn't that great what happened at the last company with UserGems, all that pipeline you generated. So reminding them of that previous success. Um, the second group there too is a lot of multi-threading now. So we have those buying groups at those companies sitting in our CRM. Sales has been multi-threading for decades, but we're kind
Can
of
you
looking at it as yeah,
can
go for it.
can you just explain what that word means for the audience, multi-threading?
Definitely. Yeah. So as soon as an opportunity opens up, you want to start pulling in other buying committee, other personas that you need to close that deal. So sales does this. So if sales on our team opens up an opportunity with marketing, we want sales buy-in, we want RevOps buy-in, we want CSMs now sometimes too to be bought in on this play. So trying to pull those other people in. So
Mm.
how sales teams use our product is they have that open opportunity. UserGems has that buying committee sitting in the CRM. They'll start looking at who they need to involve in this deal, reaching out through email to pull them in.
Got it, got it. And this is at the contact level because
Mhm.
you know the individual had that job change, etc. And then you're pushing that into LinkedIn through a customer list with user gems. I see. Got it.
Yeah. And we're doing that at the persona level. So the audiences are still big enough, but you can still narrow down the messaging a little bit more. So we're saying, hey, sales, your team is talking with us about trying this new untapped revenue channel. Do you want to join the conversation? Um, so that's how we're approaching
I
that one.
see. I see. So you're targeting an account that you guys are breaking into, and then you're trying to get more people within that account and other functions to become aware of the deal that's being, that's in progress so that, there's a greater likelihood for it to close.
Yeah, definitely. And there's some interesting plays here too around like removing blockers. So some people or some personas you don't necessarily want to pull into the deal actively, but you want to approach them with really targeted material. So example is like CFOs. CFOs are typical blockers on deals. So you don't want to like actively be pulling those into the deal because your sales team would just absolutely hate you if you started pulling those in. So what we're doing is pulling testimonials from CFOs. We're talking to pain points that we're hearing CFOs bring up on calls. We're serving those as soon as the opportunity opens so we can stay in front of them, kind of break down their barriers a little bit. So by the time UserGems comes up internally, they're ready to have that conversation. They know who UserGems is. They know
This is
some of those
so
CFO
interesting.
pain points.
Got it. So I just want to break this down because there's a lot of nuance here, and it's genius, by the way. what you're saying, so you guys are doing deal acceleration campaigns, right? So people are actively in a conversation with your sales team, right? They're considering user gems. And what you guys are doing is instead of just traditional acceleration where you're just covering the account and everybody at the account, you're taking it a step further where now you're segmenting that account by specific buying personas within that committee, and then you're showing them social proof. So in the case of the CFOs, like you're showing them testimonials from other CFOs to kind of help alleviate their concerns, right? So is that a good summation of what you just said?
Yeah, and I think a huge piece of it too is that like sales marketing alignment, which
Hmm.
we're all sick of hearing sales marketing alignment, but more of just the efficiency side of it is like the exact same people that are seeing my ads are the exact same people that are going to be getting emails from my sales team
Mm.
or ADRs on the outreach side with ABM for us. ADRs are reaching out to the same people that are seeing the ads, so it's more of an efficiency play. So those audiences sit around that 10,000 to 13,000 mark on the multi-thread side of things. So they're small enough to easily reach at a low cost and really saturate.
That's awesome. How are you guys measuring success with these campaigns? Because I'm sure somebody listening to this right now is like, well, you're not going to have a direct last touch click, right? I'm not going to have a form fill opt in. These people are already talking to you. How do you know the ads are even doing anything? Are you just wasting your time?
Definitely. Yeah, so that was one of the main problems we saw when we first started the program is we were constantly getting, I actually just got off a sales call that mentioned this, is we're constantly getting people screenshotting internal conversations or screenshotting ads on their phone, saving it for later to talk with their team about. So how we approached this was more from a CRM perspective. So we did an A/B test. All of our accounts were marked one, two, three, or four. Ones and twos got multi-threading. Threes and fours did not. So as soon as any of those opportunities opened up, we were pushing them into multi-thread or doing nothing with them on the paid media multi-thread side of things. So we were able to run that test for long enough to get it statistically significant, but the results were 31% higher win rates, 25% bigger deal sizes, 67% more prospects involved in the deal, which is a lot of the driving force behind those other metrics, and then 17% shorter sales cycles.
That's so epic.
It
I
was
hope
great.
everybody takes away from this like one of the coolest things that I love about ads is a lot of people when they think about paid media, they just think conversion, right? Driving a direct I want to drive leads, somebody fills out my form, like that's all they think of. Or maybe they think in terms of awareness, but people don't realize how many applications paid media has. Like you could even use paid media to validate a new business model, right? Like a new product you want to launch to the market. So you guys have built this entire strategy around deal acceleration. And these audiences, like you mentioned, Isaac, are around 13,000 audience size on average. You're probably going to tap out. I don't know what your cost is, but $100 a day, you're probably good. You know what I mean? You can call it a wrap. And you're noticing this velocity increase in terms of the companies that are receiving the multi-threading. So for everybody listening to this, if you've only ever thought about using your paid dollars to drive top of funnel awareness or conversion, especially in today's world, and I know we're all sick of hearing more with less, and like with the whole economy situation and all this stuff, you can use paid media to be a partner to sales and help accelerate those deals.
Yeah, I know it's really interesting, and it's the sales marketing alignment there's such a BS term in a lot of ways because nobody actually does anything with it. They just talk about it and it's like, yeah, we coordinate things, but until you can like actually automate that relationship, I really don't think it's that effective until you can
Mm.
automate the relationship in some ways, or at least who you're reaching, who you're targeting, everything like that.
And if you want to automate the relationship, go to UserGems. That's awesome.
Uh,
Cool. So we touched on a lot there. We kind of covered as well, like the audience building component, right? So you're using user gems. You're pulling in the contact account level data, and then you're leveraging LinkedIn profile targeting to then filter on top of that to understand to be able to do the multi-threading for the specific people within that community you want to go after. Um, in terms of just overall reporting and measurement, so you guys ran this test, and you know now, okay, this works. We're going to continue to invest in this. What does it look like now from an ongoing reporting perspective?
yeah, I think a lot of it is just looking at our overall metrics. I mean, now that we know it works from some level, we're a smaller company and we have low bandwidth. So a lot of it is ongoing reporting might drop down a little bit. We know it works. We're seeing the results of it. So it might just be one of those ongoing campaigns that we don't necessarily measure the ongoing impact like month over month. I
Hmm.
know at some point we will get to that point, but it's just one of those like lowest hanging fruit for us is going out, trying new things to accelerate stuff, try new campaigns, everything like that. And then I think once we build out the team, everything like that, it's going to be a lot cleaner reporting.
Gotcha. And for that 95% of your spend, is most of it just focused on these multi-threading acceleration campaigns?
A lot of ours is it's a pretty even split. I would say multi-thread's only around 10% of our total budget. So like you said, $100 a day, you can cover a lot of contacts within a really focused audience like that.
Hmm.
We have three persona ones like that, but a lot of it is spent buyer journey and demand capture. So we're using that buying group to send incentivized ads, in feed and convo. So we're still doing some of that stuff to actually capture that and give them exit points during the buyer journey. I just hopped off a sales call where the guy said he had screenshotted like three or four of our ads, and I was like, "Well, did you ever click through?" I was just kind of digging to see what his buyer journey was like. He's like, "No, I never clicked through. I was saving it for a later note." And then an ADR emailed him. So that's a
Wow.
lot of what we hear is like they're screenshotting our ads, and then
Hmm.
they see an incentivized ad, and it helps them act on it and kind of gets it off their to-do list and more into an action. Same with ADRs emailing. ADRs kind of pull them into that action. So again, paid media, if your ADR team rolls into marketing, it's a lot easier to handle that hit to the paid media not getting the full attribution.
Yep.
Um, but yeah,
It's a team sport, right? At the end of the day, business is a team sport, right? Every function within business is a team sport. I think it's really easy to forget that. One of the things that I always do with new clients when I'm helping them out and building their programs, their paid programs, is do you have a universal agreed upon attribution process as a team, right? Like how we as a team agree we are going to measure attribution and kind of try to remove because everybody's going to favor the model that in which they look the best, right? But at the end of the day, if the business isn't growing, so that's awesome. The on the incentivized ads, I noticed you guys have like $105 as your Amazon gift card amount. I've done a lot of incentivized ads in my time at Metadata, after Metadata, just with a bunch of clients and advising clients. I'm curious if you guys have tested different price points of the incentive.
yeah. So we did a little bit of testing on our own, and then just talking with other demand gens is like everybody's running these tests on gift card amounts and things like that. We heard it from one of our close partners. We decided to give it a test, and it ended up producing slightly better than 100 or in the 90s range. So it's one of those, yeah, it's one of those interesting little disruption things of that's an odd amount and it catches your attention a little bit more.
It's a good way to, if you have a solid demo process and you get a lot of aha moments and people get excited when they see your product for the first time, that's where incentives are really powerful. The challenge, of course, is you're going to get a lot of people early on that are not necessarily, they don't have that, that urgency to convert within this quarter. But that's a good opportunity for you to start a relationship with them and then, nurture them 6, 9 months down the road. Hopefully they remember you because you've been staying, top of mind, especially you guys, because you're doing all of this awareness and then acceleration as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those things where you really have to, before you launch it, talk with your sales team and kind of let them know. Some of the people that come in might be bottom of funnel. Some of them that come in, this may be their first interaction with the brand. So really kind of ask those discovery questions, but also have a really educational approach at the beginning of those because the acceleration of their knowledge of your product is so much faster in those sales calls where they can ask questions, get answers right back, and really build out their understanding of the product versus consuming content, ads, things like that.
Hmm.
So it's definitely a different approach that they have to be aware of.
Yep. And when it comes to brainstorming creative and copy, do you guys have like a documented process that's really helped you?
No documented process, so I do most of our creative and copy. So for me, it's a lot of it's just hopping to Canva, starting with a goal of the campaign, some of the
Yep.
major pain points around it. I usually build creative first and then work towards copy after that. But really focusing on those pain points, like even in some of our incentivized or most of our incentivized ads, we're still hitting on some of those pain points we mentioned top of funnel, either fear of missing out or some like really tough pains people are having right now with market conditions, even when we're asking for that demo request kind of exit or demand capture point. So
Hmm.
focusing on paying, trying to stand out. I mean, it's so easy to stand out if you're basically if you go on LinkedIn and start scrolling, look for ads that you never would have looked at. And say that is nothing like what our ads should look like, and then you keep notes of all the bad ads, and then kind of a
Yep.
sniff test of, does this ad look like this? Okay, we probably shouldn't run it.
An
Is kind of my
anti-swipe
approach.
file.
Yeah, an anti-swipe file. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's funny when it comes to paid social specifically, there's this obsession of like, how do I stand out? How do I create ads that break patterns? And with paid social, you actually want to take like a kind of a different mindset where you don't want your ads to necessarily stand out, because ads that stand out scream I'm an ad,
Mm,
and people don't like ads. Where with paid social, the goal really is to blend in. You want people to see your ad but not realize it was an ad until after the fact, because it looks so native to the platform. And this is where, like what you mentioned earlier, Isaac, with like user generated content, right? It looks authentic, it's real, it belongs on my feed. And I think a lot of times people take like a round peg square hole situation, and they just try to jam their ad in the feed, and it just completely looks off.
yeah, that's actually one thing we tested at one point and had insane click-through rates on LinkedIn, was actually filming in TikTok. So we had somebody on our team film an ad, basically them talking through the product use case for CSMs, but recorded it in TikTok. We left the TikTok logo on there and ran it as a LinkedIn ad, and we were sitting at like a 3.5% click-through rate on that ad.
It's crazy.
Because
That's
right, I
wild.
think it blends in mentally when you're scrolling through, because we're used to seeing content like that elsewhere. So when you're on LinkedIn, it just kind of looks familiar in a way. Not native to LinkedIn, but yeah.
Are you guys doing a lot of focus on like demand creation and trying to push content top of funnel, any of that?
So we're actually really light on content right now, and it's I think it's more of a speed to pipeline thing right now. Of like we're running really efficiently right now, so we're light on. We don't have anything for email capture for downloading content, things like that. We don't push content super heavy on paid media. We usually see that happen through either people click on the ads and then start their kind of journey through our site. We offer all our playbooks for free. We have some really solid content, things like that.
Hmm.
I would say it's something definitely want to get better at and push more of later on. But it's kind of a bandwidth and low hanging fruit combo.
Yeah, no, no, right on. A lot of folks that are getting started with demand creation with paid media, they'll be like, well, what do we do here? And it's just for paid media, for demand creation is just an extension of your content strategy. That's it. If you don't have a good content strategy in place, you don't have a unique point of view, all that, you need to get that sorted first. All paid media is going to do, it's like the tip of the spear. It's just going to take that asset and distribute it. A lot of times clients would be like, what's the ad type, the ad format for the content ads? And I'm like, wait a second. No, no, you're missing it. I'm like, when you create content organically, it's the same thing. We're just taking the same post and we're boosting it, and we're just guaranteeing eyeballs and like visibility and distribution on it. Um, yeah, it's so interesting to hear. One of my favorite things about doing this series is just like talking to awesome marketers like yourself, and just hearing how everybody has such a unique approach. Like there's parallels across different companies, but it's just a great reminder to everybody listening to, it's like at the end of the day, it's not what you do, but it's how you do it. And like the level of detail and the thought process and the alignment and all these nuances are so easy to be missed, but it's what makes the difference at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, it's huge, and it's everybody always wants the secret sauce, but again, it's just sticking to the basics, really. I mean, the basics of marketing and testing a lot of stuff.
What are some things that you are excited about in terms of like, is it new channels or like new tactics that you have on the horizon that are on your experiment one day list?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm excited for the re-expansion to other channels. We have LinkedIn figured out really well. I've got Facebook to work in the past, but I just pulled off of it just because of efficiency stuff right now. So for me, a lot of it is pushing some of these playbooks over to Facebook, to YouTube, some other channels like that.
Hmm.
Just experimenting more. Yeah,
If you ever want some tips on YouTube, I got you. That's my
definitely.
favorite channel of all time. It's crazy the cost per views you can get on YouTube. It's dramatic. Like I have this one client right now that Their average cost per view on YouTube is around 7 cents. 7 cents, and a view is counted on YouTube if somebody watches at least 30 seconds of your video. It's
That's
like,
solid. Yeah, you can't compete with that on LinkedIn most of the time. That's interesting.
and then
Yeah.
and then an average, like I know, like in B2B, we're obsessed with display. And are you guys doing anything on the programmatic side with display?
So I'm light on that. So we actually no programmatic, no display right now. So yeah.
Gotcha. Well, average good CTR on a display ad is like 0.05%. Like good CTR on a YouTube ad is like 2%. So you're getting tremendous engagement in relation to display, and you're getting, like ridiculous cost.
And what
This
what
is
type of content are you pushing on YouTube?
Yeah, the trap you want to avoid is you want to avoid taking your LinkedIn videos or your Facebook videos. In your case, I know you're on LinkedIn majorly, but you want to avoid just taking your LinkedIn videos and slapping it as a YouTube ad, because YouTube is unique in the sense of with YouTube, the whole name of the game is you're trying to keep a view rate low and your CTR high because you
Hmm.
get charged if somebody watches 30 seconds of your video. So you want to create a video that is unique to YouTube where the first 5 to 10 seconds are optimized so that you get the wrong viewer to skip your ad. Like a
Ooh, I
lot
love
of
that.
times people, they'll tell me like, "Oh, I hate YouTube ads. I always skip that thing." And I'm like, "Great. That's the point."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that means they're not paying for it. Ever since I told my friends this, they're like out of spite, they'll watch videos. It's terrible, but the name of the game with YouTube is like how can your and with YouTube targeting is broader. So your creative itself, the video must act as like a targeting mechanism that will attract the right prospect and it will repel the wrong one. So that like if I'm not somebody who's in sales, right, I'm not going to be interested in your ad and I should be able to click out as soon as possible.
That's a really interesting tactic because I started using that late stage Facebook when their targeting started getting bad, everything like that. I actually started opening up targeting to completely broad, no limitations, but then really focusing in on ad copy, ad creative to kind of basically make it learn that. So that's interesting. It rolls over to YouTube too. I love that.
This is how we like this is how it was done. Like I always use the example of like imagine Claude Hopkins back in the 1800s, like the man who created the coupon. You know what I mean? Like how did they get in front of their ICP outside of just like geographical targeting, which is what they had? It was the messaging, right? And like that is like kind of like the lost art of marketing because we're so obsessed with targeting and precision that we forget our ad itself should act as some sort of targeting mechanism that should speak to the right person, right? And everybody else just wants to run away from it.
I love that.
All right, Isaac, two final questions. What does your tech stack look like for paid media?
It is UserGems. That's our tech stack right now. So we don't run any intent stuff outside of buyers changing jobs. That sort of intent, more relationship intent that UserGems services. But no 6 cents demand base, anything like that. So just UserGems and a lot of effort.
Yeah, especially to stand up all those unique campaigns.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if you ever considered hiring like a VA or something, That would be huge to just help offload all that work.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things. We use it a little bit on the ABM side of things because we run 300 one-to-ones every single month.
Oh man.
So we definitely utilize a little bit there. But for the
Mhm.
rest of it, it's one of those. Once it's set up, luckily it's not too bad to manage. And it's those
Yeah.
constantly refreshing small audiences, so fatigue is low. Yeah.
Sweet. All right. Final question. What advice would you give anyone listening that is starting up a paid media program at their company?
I would say spend a lot of time in sales calls or as close to sales calls as you can get. So spend a lot of time in Gong, spend a lot of time talking with your sales team, and then post launch to ask them like feedback, ask the ADRs what they're seeing, or is quality high when these with through this type of campaign is a lot of communication there. And then on the flip side too, be really blunt with your messaging. Your messaging shouldn't be vague at all in the paid media. I think this lines up with what you were saying of like that should be part of your targeting. And way too often I'm like scrolling through LinkedIn and I see ads where I'm sitting there like looking at the ad. I'm like, what do they actually do?
Yeah.
And the longer I've done this, more I've shifted over to being really blunt of like, are you still trying to track job changes manually and like multi-thread manually? Just asking some of those like hard, like straight to the point questions. Say exactly what you do, what pain points you solve. Um, don't make it too fancy. Be really blunt so people can instantly understand what you're selling.
So much value. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. Isaac, if people wanted to connect with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, definitely. Shoot me a message on LinkedIn. Always happy to hop on calls to talk marketing, demand, what we're doing over here at UserGems. But yeah,
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll see you guys in the next one.
see ya.